How's it going, you buttes? You are listening to episode 1 of the Sick Podcast with That Leafs Fan. I hope you guys are ready for today's episode because we're about to dive straight in to talking about this team. Producer, roll the clip.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. With That Leafs Fan.
They score! They score! Holy mackerel, they score! Morgan Riley! Mo Riley! The Leafs have won it! They're going to the second round! Do you believe this? Holy mackerel!
The sickest Toronto Maple Leafs podcast. It's gonna be sick.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am so excited to finally bring you episode 1, or should I say, the journey of experiencing the Toronto Maple Leafs this entire season with your boy, That Leafs Fan. Today, we are going to be talking about all the things coming from a little intro from myself, who I am, in case you don't know, and also going into the preseason prediction, talking about some players I'm excited to watch, along with just a whole recap, preparing you and myself for this upcoming season. So, getting into who I am just like you guys, a diehard Leafs fan with psychotic expectations on a team that drives me absolutely crazy. I've been producing videos for about 4 to 5 years now, and I finally am really excited to finally have my own show. This is what I've been wanting for a very, very long time, and I'm so excited to connect with you guys and the entire community, whether you're a Leafs fan, whether you're a Habs fan, unfortunately, or whether you just like hockey and you just want to hear a crazy little kid talk about sports. You're in the right place. What I want to get into first, where the Leafs ended off last season. So, last season, we as a nation, Leafs Nation, finally got to witness the second round. We got to see the second round for the first time in what, like 20 years? 20 years. For me personally, that was the first taste I ever got of it, because the last time I had no conscience. I was 4 years old. Many of you guys can probably relate. And to all the older generation, well, I would say you're lucky, but you had to span through these 20 years of absolute, pure maniac pain. All right. But we got to see the second round. We got to see it. We got there, and it didn't end the way we thought it would at all. We realized, myself personally, winning a round is great. It feels amazing. But it's a quarter. It's a quarter of the way there. It's not the end goal at all. And regardless of our expectations as a fan base, second round, 8 teams do it every year. Every single season, 8 teams get to the second round. So as special as it felt for us, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. We slayed the demons of the first round. We got to do the same thing for the second and hopefully the third. And I pray to God to see them in the finals. I pray for it to happen. To all of you listening to this podcast, to the new Leaf fans, I ask you this: are you ready to embark on the biggest and most emotional roller coaster that is called the Leafs? And I'm going to ask you this. It's going to be a ride of ups, really high ups, and really, really low downs. And as for the Leaf fans who have already been here, are you ready to do it again? Because the preseason starts in just about a day from now. The games are going to start tomorrow, and the Leafs' first preseason game is this Sunday, followed by a back-to-back on Monday versus the Ottawa Senators. We are going to start seeing some of the prospects that are going to be playing for them. We're going to hopefully see a little gist of the new players like Domi and Bertuzzi and Ryan Reeves, if he ever gets a shot here in the preseason, to see what they're all about. But the real deal starts on the season, October 10 or 11. I have to make sure on that one. But the season is weeks away right now. It's preparation time. The boys are back in training, and I cannot wait to see them get started. To all of those listening to this podcast, again, whether you're a Leafs fan, whether you're a Leafs hater, whether you're just a hockey fan and like hearing a kid talk about something he loves, which is hockey, if you're looking for me to sugarcoat the Toronto Maple Leafs, that is not going to happen. I'm going to be very, very, very direct and very forward about how this team makes me feel on a nightly/daily basis, from all the good to all the bad and everything in between. That is what you are going to get. And I want to get straight into 3 players that I am extremely excited to watch this season. Starting in at number 1 is Joseph Woll. He is, in my opinion, probably the biggest promise the Leafs have had in a goalie that they actually developed themselves. I really like the way this guy plays. We had a little idea of him in the playoffs last season. He had some ups, he had some downs, but he definitely stood his ground. And for a young goalie to just show some levels of consistency and especially calm in his crease, not something we're used to. We're used to guys just flying around the crease all over the place. It's just not something we're used to. And I think that having someone like Joseph Woll, especially backing up Samsonov, who had a very strong season for the Leafs last year, at least I thought, until the injury came, I think Joseph Woll is going to play a very important role for the Leafs this season. I don't think he's going to get as much playing time as I might hope, but as you guys see, especially over the past few years, goalies get hurt a lot. They cannot play 80 games in a season, 82 games, whatever it is. I think Joseph Woll is going to see anywhere from 25 to maybe even 30 games this season, and I think he's going to perform very, very, very well because from what I saw last season, the Leafs team seems to be very comfortable when he's in the net. They're able to play their game. They're not focused or worried that their goalie is that they have to like protect him in the sense that he can't do his job. Like we know he's very capable. So Joseph Woll is someone I'm very much looking forward to seeing a lot more of this season. And speaking of seeing someone I want to see play a lot more, Matthew Knies. Leafs Nation, Matthew Knies, in my opinion, and you already see it on social media and clips of how these players are getting along, Matthew Knies is going to be a very, very, very big part in this franchise. He has the potential to be, at least. The reason I say that is that, first of all, he has the talent, he has the swag, he has the confidence, but he has the size to defend himself. That is something we have seen time and time again in this team. Is first of all, we never really had much on the left wing. Our right wing is stacked. We can stack it. We got Marner, we got Nylander, we have Tavares can swap over to the wing. It happens sometimes. The left wing was always kind of wishy-washy, like let's throw someone in there. Matthew Knies is not just someone we're going to be throwing in there. He is going to be a player that is going to grow into his own, and I cannot wait to see what this kid is going to bring. And not to mention the chemistry that you already see among the players, at least for when he was there, it works. And they're going to have this entire season to work on building that chemistry. Therefore, he'll be able, in my opinion, to be a very huge presence for this team and a very important one at that. And I say the word important, and that's how I'm going to carry into my opinion, the player I am most excited to watch this season. And it's a player we've seen many times, and it's a player we know what he's capable of, but that is Auston Matthews. As you guys saw this offseason, Auston Matthews is now the highest paid player, not just highest paid Leaf, well, he is, but he is the highest paid player in the NHL. And a lot of people are going to jump the gun and say, this guy has done nothing to earn the money. And both sides have points. Both sides have a good point. Those saying that Matthews is getting paid too much for what he's accomplished, I understand that. When you bring in the playoffs into the picture, he's been very dominant, and he's also been completely dormant in different parts, as we saw in the first and second round last season. But it's not really a conversation. He is the most consistent goal scorer that the Leafs have ever had, ranging from 1917, when this franchise was created, when it was founded. There has not been a more consistent goal scorer for the Leafs. And matter of fact, since Auston Matthews has entered the league, there hasn't been a more consistent goal scorer. That includes Ovechkin, that includes McDavid, that includes McKinnon. And again, me saying that is not saying that Auston Matthews is better than these players, because that is not what I'm saying at all. However, if you do look at the facts, Auston Matthews has the number one most goals since 2016 when he entered the league, and that's worth something. 100% worth something. And last season was a down season. I think he was dealing with a lot of injury or a lot of different types of like minor injuries that kind of compiled and were never taken care of. And he never had the time off to truly recover. I think he did mention that he was, I believe, dealing with an injury throughout the playoffs. He had mentioned that in an interview or like a post game, like once there was like the locker cleanup, he had mentioned that he was dealing with something and it had to do with, I believe, something in his wrist. Your wrist plays a very big role in your shot. I mean, the release, it's literally half of it comes in the wrist. You see the guy's shot, he snaps it, he rips it, and his shot was weird last year. There was something, his release was, he just wasn't, he was hitting it too high sometimes. Like lots of shots were missing the net, which is not something we're used to seeing. They were slightly less precise. And I think that this season, I expect very big things of him. And I think that he is going to, rightfully so, with the money he's being paid, I think he's going to take another step into his career and that we are going to see a new level of Austin Matthews that we haven't yet seen. And I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. I hope I'm right. I want myself to be right. And I think I will be. I truly think I will be. I think that Austin Matthews is going to have a career season this year, despite already hitting a 60 goal plus season. I think he has a lot more in the tank. And now the only thing I would like to see from him, along with all of the other Leafs, is more grit, more poise, and more confidence in themselves. That, let me rephrase that. I think the most important thing the Leafs need to have this season is respect for themselves. You saw it in the playoffs last year. They get pushed around. They got pushed around, should I say. Players like Sam Bennett just smashing Matthew Knies into the ground, and the Leafs doing absolutely nothing about nothing. I wanted to throw my remote at the TV. I almost did several times. You're not going to win like that. You need to have respect and defense for yourself when someone confronts you, when someone tries to target you. You need to step up, whoever it is. And I think that is exactly what Mr. Treliving has done for the boys. That's what he's trying to do. He went to go and get guys like Ryan Reeves. That is just pure destruction. Hockey talent-wise, it's not what he's there for. We know why Ryan Reeves is here. He's there to put a presence on the ice and rile the guys behind him, to no longer have situations like that of the Bennett and Knies happen again. He got guys like Domi. He got guys like Bertuzzi. And I think the players on the team as well are going to all work with that. Last year and many years in the past, the Leafs have always had that one guy. They had Clifford at one point. They had Simmons. They had Bunting. But they never had like a triage of like 4 to 5 players who are going to band together and spread that energy across the room. They never had that. This year, there is at least the opportunity. I'm not going to guarantee it because you can't guarantee anything in life other than paying your taxes. But anyways, this is something that I find is a new style of play that's going to emerge from this team, being that they are actually going to have, hopefully, a new identity with all of these players bunching together. And let's be honest here, Tyler Bertuzzi is kind of a better upgrade than Bunting. Like, no, Bunting did great for Toronto when he could have. He did all he can, but he was the only one. I think having someone like Reeves, who is pure fight, and then someone like Bertuzzi, who is very annoying to play against, but can also put the puck in the net, and having the in-between, I think it's going to spark a difference. And I think it's also going to trickle into the players like Matthews, Marner, Tavares, and Nylander. I really do hope that it does trail into them. And that all comes down to the prediction. That's what I'm hoping for. So let's get into that. So, the season prediction, the standing prediction. Where will they finish? Where will they not? The Atlantic Division, in my opinion, is the most versatile and hungry division We're talking about teams like the Senators and the Sabres who are heavily, heavily on the rise, coming from a bunch of different rookies. They're making moves and they're going to be on the uprise. They're no longer going to be these low-end teams in the league. And we also have the big presence of the double-time champ and three-time Cup appearance, Tampa Bay Lightning. We have the Bruins who set the NHL record for points last season. We have the Panthers who went to the finals. There's a lot of competition in this division. It's a highly competitive league, but this division, although it may be biased because this is the one I focus on, I think it is the hardest division in the league because of the level of versatility that spans from first to eighth all the way across. Again, Boston set the record. Tampa, they have that experience. Panthers, they just went to the finals. The Leafs, they finally got out of the first round. Sens and Sabres on the rise, as well as the Wings, I should say that as well. And the Canadians. There's a lot of question marks. Who's going to show up? Who's going to falter? Are the Bruins going to be as competitive as last year despite losing Bergeron? Are the Bolts still the Bolts from the past couple seasons? Was the Panthers a fluke? Or did we finally see what they truly are in the playoff run? Do the Leafs have it? So many questions. So where does that put the Leafs? The Leafs 100% have what it takes to win the division. 100%. However, there's a lot of teams that have the exact potential. Anyone can do it. We can be surprised from teams. Everyone thought, I did too, and I'll be the first to call myself out. No one expected the Bruins to do what they did last year. None. Nobody. Nobody at all. But what we also saw, and I've been a big advocate of this, the season, in my opinion, is simply the practice to become who you want to be for when the games matter. Obviously, the season matters. You need to have a good season or you won't see the playoffs. So there's that middle ground. Yes, it's important, but you cannot put all of your energy and burn players out and just I always thought that when I was younger that points and production in the season would be followed up with the exact same in the playoffs. And I've been proven time and time again that that is not true. The Leafs have finished high in the division over this past several years. And throughout all of that, we got around and an extra week and a half of hockey. And we lost to the Panthers, who finished last year barely on the scratch line of making the playoffs. It was to the point that the Panthers' run last year could have literally been avoided if the Penguins just beat the Hawks. It was a matter of like one or two situations that kind of worked the Panthers' way. They got into the playoffs and they had nothing to lose. And that is, in my opinion, the most important thing simply is having nothing to lose. There's been a lot of pressure in Toronto. Obviously, we are one of the biggest fan bases. With a lot of population comes a lot of pressure. The Panthers, we're going to say it has how it is, do not have nearly as big a fan base, nor nearly the expectation as some of the teams like the Leafs, the Habs, a team like the Bruins. They don't have that, so they got to play with nothing to lose. The Leafs have to put that in their mind where it's close the media. It's no purpose. Leafs media and all of this, they're gonna put out stories because they have to, because it generates. But that's not the goal. Prepare yourself for streaky moments throughout the season, from players to the overall team. We're going to deal with injury. So reverting back to how this all started, where do the Leafs finish this season? Although I believe they do have the potential to win the division, I just think there's one of the other 7 teams in the division that are going to win it, and it won't be the Leafs, and I'm not mad about it. To be completely honest with you, I think all that is going to do is put unnecessary pressure. And we saw last year, you finished second in the division, you had to play Tampa. Was that easy? Nope. You beat Tampa. You're going to play Boston. No, you won't, because Florida, the team who just made it in, beat the Bruins. So I used to really care about where they finished. Now all I care is the X near their name. I don't care where, whether you're in the top 3 in the division, whether you hit a wild card spot, get in, find a way. What is far more important is their way of play and their way of consistency and not personality, what's the word I'm looking for? The identity of the team. That's what I think is the most important aspect of the team throughout the season. Who are you? What do you want to be? What is your goal? Obviously, the goal is to win the cup, but going to smaller things, who do you want to be? Who are people playing against when they play the Leafs? Who are the Leafs? Are they a high octane offense? Are they someone that can be pushed around? Are they someone that can't be? Are they more of a defensive team, which a lot of people are going to disagree on? The Leafs defensive game overall, not saying that they have the best defensive core, and they have a pretty average, like a league average defensive core, but as a team, they've actually been very solid defensively. They've had ups and downs in the special teams, but it's something that's been being worked on throughout the past couple seasons. I think the Leafs have a lot of potential, but like I said, I'm not here to sugarcoat. I care about the X near the name. Obviously, once the season begins, there's going to be moments we're all going to be really excited to talk about. There's going to be moments that we're going to want to highlight, moments that are going to piss us off completely. But at the end of the day, if you're telling me when the season starts that once the 82 games elapse, that the Leafs will have an X, Y, or Z next to their name by the end of it, the rest is all smoke. It doesn't matter. We can speculate all we want. We can talk about who we want. We can talk about situations and this, that, and the other thing. Doesn't amount to anything. So that's how I'm going to say that. I predict that the Leafs finish relatively where they finished last season. I think it won't be the Bruins, but I can't quite figure out who it may be. But there's just a lot of wild card in the Atlantic, a lot of wild card teams that we're not sure how they're going to perform. I think the Leafs finished just around where they finished last season, slightly under their 115 point total because, as I said, it's a lot more competitive. I think they lose out on some points, but I don't think it's that important. I'd say they're going to finish anywhere from 105 points to like 111, probably somewhere in that gap. I do think they surpassed the 100-point mark, but that's going to rely on factors on the team and consistency and surprises, which is what I will most likely be my final point for today's podcast. A hot take. And a lot of people forget about it, and it's to no one's fault. It's how it happens. Nick Robertson. Nick Robertson, I think, is someone who has been completely forgotten in the equation, and you can't really blame people. He's always hurt, always. But the games that he has been involved in, when this kid turns it on, it's electric. It's completely electric. I want to specifically recall the game where he played against his brother last season against the Stars. That was probably one of the most memorable games of last year. That's like one of the first games that comes to mind is Nick Robertson's performance. The sad part about that is he got hurt and he was never really able to reestablish himself. And it's been a reoccurring issue in his career. I think if he is going to manage to stay healthy, I truly, truly, truly believe that he has the opportunity to be an X factor and a full-time Leaf on the roster by the end of this season under Matthew Knies on that second line. It could happen. Matter of fact, there's actually also Tyler Bertuzzi. Now, like I said, there's a lot of versatility now on this team that we haven't seen. Did they get better? That's a debate of like, where did they get better? Where did they get worse? Because there are things they got better at and there is things they lost. There are players they lost, but there's also players they've acquired. So it's going to be a very, very, very interesting season, as it always is with the Toronto Maple Leafs. But my question to you is, are you ready to hop onto the emotional roller coaster for the first time if you haven't already? And to the rest of Leafs Nation, are you ready to do it again? Because brace yourselves, this team is always here to surprise us. They are always going to piss us off, and they're always going to make us feel on top of the world and everything in between on that spectrum. But guys, that is going to conclude the first episode of the Sick Podcast with your boy, That Leafs Fan. I'm excited to see what this year can bring us, both myself and you listening behind the camera. I'm excited to build a community. That is the most important thing to me, because at the end of the day, hockey is entertainment and it is what brings us joy, like you and myself. It's a tight community, and I'm excited to get to know you guys. So on behalf of myself and the Sick Podcast, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because episodes are going to be pumping out. I love talking about this team no matter how much they piss me off. You're going to see everything in between throughout the season, and I cannot wait for it. Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing rest of your day. Stay safe, stay humble, and get ready. The journey is very soon to begin. I'll see you in the next one.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with That Leafs Fan on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.